Joe Biden literally unfroze $7 billion that we had seized from the Iranian government like 25 years ago and gave it back to him, to the mullahs in Iran. He literally turned the key and said, okay, you guys can have this money back. We're going to trust you, Iran, not to create a nuclear weapon, not to fund the IRGC, not to kill Americans, not to launch another war in Israel via Hamas, Hezbollah. And you guys just report to us how the nuke stuff is going, because remember, these are the guys that want it back in the JCPOA, Obama's nuclear deal. How's that looking today? The Secretary of State for Joe Biden just said he can't tell you how close Iran is to a nuclear weapon, but he thinks they're pretty close. You let him do that. You know, they're buying their weaponry and stuff from China, Russia, Venezuela, oil. And now they're exporting their crude overseas, and people are buying that. Now they have access to the international banking system, which we froze off. I mean, Trump's sanctions program on Iran, just for example, was dominating. It was suffocating. And there was a reason for that, because they would not play ball on terms of shutting down their nuclear program. And now they have nuclear fissile material enough to sustain a bomb. And the Biden administration has given them free rein. So now the biggest threat kinetically is armed with money and weaponry, and they're combining forces with Russia and the CCP, who would all probably normally be like battling against each other a little bit, but they've basically sidelined that to say, we are of the same enemy, the USA. We need your intel, we need your weaponry, we need your finances, and we'll help you, Iran, in the process because you hate America. And you'll do the most outward-leaning kinetic operations, to wit, the October 7th invasion of Israel.
How vulnerable is our power grid?
It's probably the most vulnerable thing we have. And people just don't pay attention to it because, I don't know if because it's not sexy or cool to talk about or cool to work on, but our power grids are like 60, 70 years old.
It's going to be cool when the lights don't go out.
And people, exactly. And people are like, no, that just happens in that movie Die Hard or something, Die Hard 4, whatever it was. I'm like, no, I mean, it's not that hard to shut off a power grid through a cyber attack. And once you get it down, to get it back online, I mean, just think of it. I don't want to get into the numbers. There's not a lot of these things that control the electricity supply to the country. And for people who don't know what a power grid is, it's literally just like a switch that says, you got electricity over here, we're going to take it in and give it to you over there. Right? And it's just a relay system. And we haven't upgraded those in forever. And I'm not talking just physical infrastructure. I'm talking, how do we protect it from cyber attacks from the CCP, from Russia and Iran and other bad actors. And we don't really have a focus here because that's an intel directive. And to pull back on it, the NIPIF, the National Intelligence Priorities Framework, is a president's rack and stack of what they want the intel community to focus on. Tier 1, 2, 3, 4. For us in the Trump administration, it was terrorism, hostages, the never-ending wars, Iran, the CCP, Russia, boom, tier 1. And the DNI with the president changes that based on what he wants. And then the intel community says, okay, CIA, you got, and I'm making up numbers, you got 5,000 people on this. This is your tier 1 for 5,000 people. Go. Same thing, NSA, DOD, FBI, given their specific lines of effort. The NIPIF now, it reads like a children's playbook. Tier 1, DEI, Tier 1, diversity, equity, and inclusion for every agency and department. Tier 1, LGBTQ stuff. Tier 1, white rage. And the people doing the work can't collect the intel that you need to secure this nation against things like electric grids because they're not allowed to look there.
How vulnerable is it to outside attacks?
Big. It's big because once they hit it, we can't fix it fast. Look, we just saw Paris during the Olympics just got blacked out. Ain't a coincidence after the opening ceremonies. And I think President Trump has talked about this. You need to overhaul the infrastructure around these systems to safeguard us from what I view as one of the easier threats our adversaries can deploy against America. And it's also, those are harder to trace too. So that's the other thing. The sourcing would be much harder on that than, say, a kinetic operation like a 9/11 style attack.